We got Macklem, RBC, and some other retailers coming in with some reports on profitability, some good, some great. And we also have delinquency report. All right, I'm James Lowen. Let's get your economic knowledge going as we shrink down my massive head as usual here. So let's take a look at a few large announcements here and what that might potentially mean. So Bank of Canada will not review 2% inflation target next year. What the hell does that mean? Well, we have a target as to where we want inflation to be into the marketplace, and usually they review that every year. The band is usually between 1 and 3%, with the target, no big surprise, being in the middle at 2. Which this means is that if we ever see, of course, from this point being 2 being the target, if we see inflation going up, then rates will probably stay the same or even could go up. If inflation goes lower, meaning that spending's down, consumer demand is down, then we will often reduce rates to incentivize then more spending and get inflation back up. Is this a shock? Well, not really. If we take a look at Macklem is really talking about in here, is that we're really facing a more uncertain and unpredictable world. What he means is we have a crazy orange-faced fucking weirdo in the U.S. who does erratic things, and so no big surprise from an economic standpoint when we have someone doing such craziness. Just this is a position or place where we can try to have some constant, and just leaving that there while Peter Pumpkinhead does all this show and dance is probably a smart call. I support this. I think Macklem did a really smart choice onto this one as well, and we'll just keep taking a look and trending and to see what's happening as far as inflationary sides go. So where does that put us? Well, a couple intriguing further announcements. As I mentioned, we have RBC coming in. And if you hold RBC stock, congratulations. They actually did really, really well, despite what you're seeing. This titles are always fun, right? Because you're seeing delinquencies highest in Toronto. Well, what you probably don't see is that their earnings just smashed. So, if we take a look here, the adjusted net income should be net income is actually up 17% year over year. Woohoo! If you work for RBC, and woohoo! If you also own their stocks. I do. The provisions for credit losses is intriguing. They're year over year, they're allowing for more bad debt write-offs. So you can see up 34% year over year. They're still increasing on residential mortgages, so they're up to 418 billion in total mortgages. But the really intriguing part is mortgage delinquencies. All right, so 90 days plus, meaning that you're 3 months late on your mortgage, is up 0.7 basis points. So 7 bips is 0.07%, which might not sound like a lot, but when last year, if we take 7 off of this, that is of course, 0.24, that is a 1/3% increase in mortgage delinquencies. That is not nothing. I'm intrigued to see how they're going to be adjusting and allowing for this into the future. So not a big surprise onto there. I won't go into any the housing. Well, actually, this one was quite interesting because even despite this, RBC's forecast will rise 0.8% over the next 12 months and grow at 3.5 annual pace for the following 2 to 5 years. So still calling for housing appreciation into the foreseeable future. Cool. What affects inflation? Well, consumer spending, right? Consumer confidence and spending and that. If we take a look, Canadians' consumer spending falters as July sales decline. So we actually saw a lot of spending in some marketplace, but actually at Dollarama. So at discount stores, dollar stores are actually seeing a lot more sales. So potentially great place to be investing, but that's also a sign of consumer confidence and where people are allocating their funds and looking for opportunities for sales or discounts. So whenever we see, June figures coming in, deceleration, all right, which means, as we're looking at this is potential for further, reduction in consumer confidence into that side, potential for a lowering on inflation, which then can mean future rate decreases. With the craziness going on with tariffs, if that sustains, well, as prices go up, that would be inflation. So we have two kind of opposing forces here, and we'll just keep tracking, watching to see which way these are going to be going. But this consistency with generally more cautious attitude among consumer spending amid the tariff scenarios that we have, which is not a big surprise. We're going to be tracking and waiting for some releases on the consumer confidence indices. We'll release those ones, and of course, watching inflation. We did lose, as of just a few weeks ago, over 40,000 jobs, which again we weren't shocked. Was mostly part-time jobs. We gained a bunch in May, and now we've just lost about 2/3 2/3 of those ones as well. So intriguing times to see among consumer spending being down, part-time jobs being lost, and seeing of the tariffs. Our expectation is still that we're going to see on September a reduction in the overnight lending rate. We got Macklem coming out again in a couple weeks, so we're going to kind of trying to interpret and pay attention as what he's saying. Oftentimes we're looking for certain cues and language that he's using is to give some type of indication, but we're still leaning towards a reduction. I'm James Lowen. Now you got your economic forecast going. Have yourself a fantastic day.